Hello guys, in today's video I'm going to show you on my work in progress on the StunLock character. As we can see on this montage, I'm going to show you all of the crazy moments that I was having when I just stun the target and it's never actually waking up, and we are able to perform as much as damages as we can without being scared that something will attack us or one-shot us. Pretty much the build, it's turned out to be pretty fun, and I'm just gonna explain basically how the build works after the montage and how the stun mechanic in general in Path of Exile works as well, so you guys know exactly how to build your character. Alright, enjoy the further montage. Alright guys, as we saw into the video at the very beginning on the montage, we are playing a StunLock character. Of course it's a Marauder, and the most cool part is that he's a Berserker as well. Now, I'm not exactly sure for where to even start, but let's say that we are using two main abilities. One is from a totem and the other one we are performing as well. Now, our two main abilities is Earthshaker and Ground Slam. Now, why we're using Earthshaker? Well, Earthshaker, it's pretty much good ability for doing quite a lot of damage, because let me just switch it real quick. If I use Earthshaker, it's going to include basically 5 rocks per hit, that every single one of them will explode and do AoE damage. Now this explosion will do only 70% of the damage that Earthshaker will perform. So basically imagine it with one attack and then 5 more procs. So in technically we're making 6 attacks every single time when our totem basically slam the ground. And I think this is pretty cool. I'm still testing this and that, but overall for now I think that it's pretty good. Now, of course, we're using Ground Slam just because this ability grants us 25% reduce enemy stun threshold and, of course, increase stun effect duration. Now, not only that, but it deals 49% more damage to close target. So, in our case, as we can see here, we have attack damage that is modified almost 2 times. And I think it's pretty crazy. Ground Slam, it's a pretty good like start for stun locking the enemy. Now I just wanted to say that you can always switch it with the Ice Crush, and it's going to include all of your gems if you're using the setup that I'm going to show you right now, and it will convert all of your physical damage to cold damage. So physical reflect maps will be not anything scary at all. So if you have a, for example, chisel a map, use Orb of Alchemy, and then Vol the map, use Orb of Vol, using a Vol Orb, and for example the map breaks and you end up with Phys Reflect, do not worry at all, just basically include the Ice Crash and you'll be fine. Of course, this will reduce the chance to stun on the target and the stun duration. So this is because I'll explain later into the video, but basically stun and stun mechanic in general favors the physical damage and not elemental damage. So on short, if you have a reflect map, you can also always put the Ice Crash instead of Ground Slam, and it's gonna do wonders. I usually pretty like this ability in general. Look at this. Massive explosions, nice. Okay, now let's start with the 2 6-links that I have. This Mace is super good for starters. It costs just 20 Chaos Orbs and you're able to have a 6-link that it's absolutely wonders for starters. This is the best weapon that you can find so far. It's gonna do everything for you. Trust me guys, big time. My totem have those gems. Of course, Earthquaker support, our Earthshaker, stun support. These basically increase the chance to stun the target. Ruthless support, so every single third attack of our totem will be basically pretty huge, which of course, why not, right? Why not our totem to do damage as well? Multi-strike support, obvious reasons. We want to make as much as possible basically those rocks around the boss, for example, and then we're going to use Ground Slam. And just to say, those rocks are only exploded once we're using a slam ability like a Ground Slam or any War Cry. Anything else are not able to activate them. Just keep that in mind. So I'm just gonna make it easier for you guys. So all of these abilities, that including slam in their basically portfolio, you're able to shatter those 5 fissures, those 5 rocks. Anything else, any other attack, cyclone or meteors, chain lightning, supernova, none of them will basically touch the rocks at all. The only thing that you can blast those rocks is a slam ability or War Cry. Okay, so with that out of the way, as you can see, we're trying to do as much as possible damage with our totem, and of course make him stun the target as well. Now our main setup, it's pretty unique. Of course you can always modify it how much you like, but for now I'm pretty satisfied with this setup, just because we are Berserker and we are generating rage support. It's pretty huge for the character. It's gonna give us another huge numbers bonus damage to our character, which I pretty much like. We have a fortification because this is pretty important to sustain the damage of the character, especially when we have this absolutely crazy helmet. Increasing your physical damage taken by 50% is not a joke at all. So fortification pretty much helps us a lot. Multiple strike support, it's pretty self-explanatory. We want to hit pretty fast. We have Fist of War support, so basically every single 1.8 seconds we are going to perform one pretty huge slam that's going to do 95% more damage, which is pretty good, to be completely honest. Then we have Ruthless support. This pretty much helps us with the stun duration on the enemy, and every third attack will do another 97% more damage. So if we time them, we can do a lot of damage, like 100% from here, 100% of here. It's a pretty good number. And on the top of it, I'm gonna show you the passive tree. We have a 3% chance to deal triple damage. So if we proc them at once, we're able to perform, I believe, pretty crazy amount of damage, and that's pretty awesome. Now with this out of the way, most of the gear that you can see on my character, it's not basically made it till the end. This is basically work in progress. None of this equipment it's permanent for the character. There is many more important components, rings for HP. Maybe I'll stick with the critical strike rings if we are able to upgrade the weapon. I have a couple of weapons in mind, but of course iron rings will be more better option, because we are able to increase our physical damage. Even crits, basically the more damage you do physical damage, the more bigger chance you have to stun the target. The crit pretty much helps a lot, but if we're not able to perform very big percent chance to crit, I'm probably going to invest in more flat physical damage, just to make sure that I'll include this. Nothing too crazy regarding the items. My flasks are from the last video that I show you guys. They're basically autopilot. I don't need to even use them once. They just auto-fulfilling themselves at those 3. So wherever we get hit, we're gonna get 5 charges, and we get the maximum charges, we're going to activate the flask. So in boss fights we are permanently have basically flask charges, and I think this is pretty nice. Now something else that I need to include, it's of course Berserk and castle damage taken. I didn't test it yet. I believe that could be pretty powerful when we take pretty large hit, so we can sustain ourselves. And most of our gear does not have very good HP pool, so in best scenario we can gather like 5k possible HP, maybe 4k and a half, something like that. So other skills, we're using Warlock Mark. This gives us more percent chance to do a double stun, and of course we are getting some more leech, which is one of the main components of the character as well. We are basically sustaining ourselves by basically hitting as much as possible and trying to out damage our opponent on short. Our auras, of course, it's flesh and stone. We are doing more damage with physical attacks by the enemies around the circle. I mean, inside the circle. We have a pride. Unfortunately, GGG fixed it, and pride is no longer free ability. Now we need mana reservation to actually cast it, which it's a little bit sucks, but you know, they needed to do what they needed to do. So nearby enemies will take more physical damage, and this basically will increase my stun chance, because the more damage we perform to the enemy, the more chance we have to stun them. So this can rise to 39%, which is pretty good. And of course we have a dread banner, which will increase impale chance, and we're gonna have chance to impale the targets, which impale is pretty important, but we just don't have enough points to invest in impale as well. So dread banner is some kind of a balance. It's giving us I mean, it's nice. It's nice to have impale. Then we have molten shell. This is basically self-explanatory. It protects us from hits, and it's like defensive layer. After we gather all this information and go through all of this, we are going to go into the passive tree. So everything that you can gather yourself for stun duration on enemy, stun threshold, reduce their stun threshold, it's included. We are also focusing a little bit on the totem. I just decided to increase I decided just to increase a little bit of the totem like damage, because from those 2 points we got 60% more damage. I think it's like necessary that our totem as well do some damage. I think it's worth it. We have some mana leech and life leech, and we have a lot of those nodes, and we've been heavily focusing on them in order to get as much as possible leeching from the bosses that we are going to fight. So for example, here we have 1.2% physical damage leeching. Here it's, let's say, I think another around, so this combined is like 3%, and here we have another one for so we have around 5% of our damage to leech's life. I think there is a more of those nodes, but I'm not exactly sure where they are. So yes, the mark 2%, so 7% of our damage will be leech's life, which is pretty cool. Of course, we are Berserker because we're gonna do as much as possible damage, and we want to make sure that we're gonna stun the target. So the more we stun the target, the more damage you do, the more damage I do, the more chance to stun the target we're gonna have. So we've been using some couple of pretty important talents like Berserking. 10% plus 10 maximum rage, it's pretty good, because this modifier, when it gets tripled, we're getting absolutely crazy amount of damage, movement speed, and attack speed for just 3 points. And I think this is pretty important. So the rest of it, just everything that you can gather yourself with reduce enemy stun threshold and increase damage with maces. But I've been heavily focusing on reduce stun threshold with enemy and increase stun duration. Now, the next levels that we're going to farm, I'm going to include it in the chance to bleed. 30%, I guess it's going to be absolutely fine, just for the simple fact that I'm just looking those numbers and I'm like, why I'm not bleeding the enemy. Like 12k bleed, I think it's pretty good, like absolutely crazy. And if we have just this 15% chance to bleed the target, and we can proc it at least 2 times, 3 times in a boss fight, this is definitely a lot of damage, and I'm missing damage on short. And just for 1 point, we can increase the potential of the character by quite a lot. Anything else like Iron Reflex, it's optional, because we are using gear that it's dexterity, gear that's invasion rating based. We need to convert this invasion rating to armor, so we make sure that we are more tankier. Basically, if you have all of your gear, it's armor based, you don't particularly need this. You don't need it, right? Because why should you have nothing to convert to armor. Here, of course, we've been including increase the effect of mark, and we have chilling strike against market enemy, so minus 10% of their HP, they're gone. And one more key stone, which is the vow pack. We don't have any life regeneration. That's why we're not using blood rage, because I'm pretty spooky to use blood rage. I'm not able to sustain the ability, and I have a chance to just die from pretty much nothing. That's why we're not using blood rage. Now this tree, it's pretty much, I spent a lot of time to actually organize it, so this is pretty much finish it in the way that we are like level 86. Now these 3 will be included into the video description below, so I don't need to go to every single one of the master talents that I've been picking up. You can guys check them if you want. It will be in the video description below. So now I'm going to explain the stun mechanic in Path of Exile. Alright guys, let's talk about stun mechanic in Path of Exile in general. Right now, if you want to maximize your build and the build potential, it's pretty crucial to understand the stun mechanic in general. Now, I'm going to divide this stun mechanic on 3 components, which is stun duration, stun chance, and stun threshold. Every single one of those components is pretty important. So let's start with the stun duration. So basically, the default stun duration is 0.35 seconds, and the maximum that you can perform without any modifiers could be 0.7 seconds. Now, basically, the more stun duration you have, the more stun duration you're going to perform on the enemy, which is self-explanatory. And of course, you have some couple of talents, for example, chance to double stun. So if you stun the target for 3 seconds, self-explanatory will be stunned for 6 seconds. So what it's important here to know is that if the mob or boss or any enemy that you're going to face have increased stun recovery, this stun recovery will divide by how much they have your stun. So if, let's say, mob have 50% stun recovery, let's say that you make 8%, let's say that you perform 8 seconds stun, he's going to reduce the stun to 4 seconds if the enemy have 50% stun recovery. So pretty simple. Stun duration you can gather from many sources. Basically, the main sources are from the Marauder tree, and you have also belts, any maces. They're pretty much going to provide you with the stun duration. As you can see here, we have 25% chance to double stun duration. So in my case, I have my belt and my mace that increase my stun duration as well. We're cursing the enemy to have chance to have the double stun duration and everything that you can gather from the passive tree. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is stun chance. Now, this is pretty cool because I'm able to gather my calculator as well. So basically there is a pretty simple equation that I'm going to perform here, so I can explain you how much what actually matters to have a stun chance, like what matters that you can make more chance to stun. The more bigger damage you do, the more chance to stun the target you have. So in short, even so, before people with low damage get like disappointed, don't worry guys, into the third component, which is stun threshold, we are going to discuss a couple of components, and you understand that not only the big damage matters, but you can also stun the target with low damage as well. Now, let's say that my character right now without any buffs or procs will do 20k damage. And let's say that enemy have 1 million HP. So we're going to divide this 20k to 1 million HP, and the number that we're going to have will multiply by 200. So this is basically from the equation. Now this shows me that I'll have 4% chance to stun the target. Now if you want to increase that chance of stunning the target, you need to have a stun threshold. So let's say that our character have 75% reducing enemy stun threshold. So previously our enemy was defending itself with 1 million HP. Now when we have 75% stun threshold, our enemy will defend itself only I a little bit fucked this up, this calculation. So 1 million minus 75% will be okay. There we go. So in our case, our enemy will defend itself with 215k maximum life to not be stunned instead of 1 million.
So now if we make the previous calculation with the 20k damage, let's do it real quick. 20k, 20k divided, oh, this is a percentage, so 20k divided by 215k will make 0.8 multiplied by 200, and it's like 16% chance. So what does that mean? That means even if you have not the most greatest damage in the world, like, I don't know, 10k or 100k, you can also include or invest in stun threshold, and you're able to perform good amount of chance to stun the target. So what we learn from here: stun duration, you can increase it from any sources for stun duration, which is really pretty much self-explanatory. And of course, the stun chance, it's based on how much more damage you're going to do the target. The more damage you do to the target, the more bigger chance to stun you have. And of course, stun threshold is like how much more likely you're to stun the enemy. And because we make the calculation, if you have 75%, you're going to reduce the 75% of the HP of the target that's trying to protect itself to be not stunned. And basically this is a pretty good modifier. Now keep in mind that you have more chance to stun with the physical attacks and not with elemental ones. What does that mean? That means that if your build is purely physical, you have better timing with the stun in general than somebody who is going to be with elemental build. So the stun mechanic in general favors the physical damage of people who is going to use it, and not elemental damage. Guys, thank you so much for watching the video till the end. I hope you gathered a little bit more knowledge of Path of Exile stun mechanic, and I hope I inspired you with the build. I really hope you liked the video as well, and you got a pretty cool idea for a character. Now, if you really like the video and you want to support me, please click that subscribe button. I'm trying to reach 1k subscribers, and this will definitely help me out a lot. And guys, thanks so much for your support, and see you into the next video.